Have you noticed how time used to feel different? As a child, a single summer could stretch out like a lifetime. Now, entire years vanish in the space between 2 Decembers. Your days are full, yet somehow forgettable. You look back, and instead of moments, you remember milestones. Instead of days, only deadlines. Why does life speed up as we get older? Is it just stress? Routine? Or is something deeper at play? Something woven into how our minds perceive reality? Henri Bergson, a French philosopher who once stood face to face with Albert Einstein, believed that the answer wasn't found in clocks or calendars. He argued that time, real time, isn't measured in seconds. It's felt in the depth of our experiences. Bergson saw a dangerous illusion in how society understands time. We treat it like space, like something we can divide, control, and measure. But the time we live doesn't tick. It flows. And when we lose touch with that flowing, living time, we begin to lose touch with ourselves. So what changed? Why did your childhood feel so vast, and adulthood feel like a blur? In the next few minutes, we'll explore why your perception of time is shrinking, and how Bergson's theory might help you take it back. But if you choose to keep watching, just know you're stepping out of habit, and into something that might change the way you see your entire life. When you look at a clock, what do you really see? 12 numbers, 2 hands, and a never-ending cycle of ticks. Seconds, minutes, hours. It feels objective, mechanical, universal. But is it? We've built our entire world around this system. Schedules, deadlines, calendars, routines. We've learned to treat time like a container, something you fill, manage, save, or waste. And yet, the most crucial truth remains buried beneath the ticking. The way we measure time has nothing to do with the way we experience it. Henri Bergson called this the great confusion of modern life. We've mistaken the map for the territory. We treat the mechanical division of time, clock time, as reality itself. But clock time is artificial. It divides life into uniform slices, while life itself is anything but uniform. Think about it. A single hour spent waiting for bad news drags like a slow-moving storm. But that same hour at dinner with an old friend? It's gone before dessert. So what happened? The clock didn't lie, but your experience told a different story. According to Bergson, the time we feel, the flow of our inner life, is not linear. It's not something that can be cut into identical pieces. It stretches, contracts, deepens, accelerates. It breathes. And yet, we are conditioned from childhood to obey the clock. To wake, work, eat, and sleep according to numbers on a wall. We stop listening to the body's rhythms, the mind's natural pace, the soul's silences. Instead, we chase punctuality. We glorify productivity. And slowly we lose presence. Bergson warned that this confusion wasn't harmless. When we surrender to mechanical time, we begin to experience life as fragmented. Moments are no longer lived, they're managed. Each day becomes a checklist, and the deeper rhythms of joy, grief, love, and wonder get flattened by repetition and routine. That's why, as we grow older, we often feel that time is accelerating. Because life becomes more predictable, and predictability compresses our perception. Clocks can count seconds, but they can't measure meaning. They can't hold the weight of a memory or the eternity hidden in a single glance. Bergson challenged the scientific view of time as a fourth dimension, as something that moves forward uniformly, like space. To him, time wasn't a place you travel through. It was a texture, an unfolding, a consciousness in motion. He called the scientific view of time a useful illusion, a tool but not a truth. And he wasn't alone. Even artists and poets have echoed this for centuries. Because deep down we all know, time doesn't always move at the same speed. It rushes in moments of panic, and it freezes in awe. So why do we keep trusting the clock over our own perception? Maybe because it's easier. It gives us the illusion of control, a false certainty in a world that feels increasingly chaotic. But what we gain in order, we lose in meaning. And slowly, as the years speed up, we don't just lose time, we lose the feeling of being alive inside it. There are moments in life when time seems to disappear. A kiss, the sound of rain hitting the roof, a quiet walk, lost in thought. In those moments, you don't check the clock because you are the clock. You're inside time, not watching it pass. That feeling is what Henri Bergson believed to be the essence of real time. Not the kind we manage with alarms and reminders, but the one that unfolds within us. He called it inner time or psychological time. It's not made of numbers, it's made of experiences. This is where the idea of duration comes in, a term Bergson used to describe how consciousness experiences the flow of time. Unlike the artificial structure of hours and days, duration is fluid. It's elastic. It's deeply tied to memory, emotion, and presence. According to modern neuroscience, our perception of time is shaped by how much attention we give to each moment. When we are fully present, exploring, learning, feeling, our brains create richer memory traces. And those rich memories make time feel full. That's why childhood felt so vast. Every day was an adventure, every moment encoded with novelty and meaning. But as we age, routines settle in. Fewer things surprise us. The brain begins to compress experiences because they look the same: commute, screen, eat, sleep, repeat. So a year filled with repetition feels like it barely happened. This isn't just a poetic metaphor. Studies in cognitive psychology show that the more varied and emotionally intense your experiences, the slower time feels in retrospect. This means we don't remember time, we remember what filled it. Duration is the quality of that inner fullness. It's what makes 5 minutes of panic feel longer than a whole afternoon of scrolling. It's what makes a single conversation stay with you for years, while entire weeks disappear from your memory. Bergson believed that real life isn't a line we follow, but a current we flow within. And to feel alive, we must return to that current. But doing so requires something modern life rarely allows: stillness, reflection, disconnection from the relentless tick of the external world. Artists understand this. A song that moves you stretches time. A film that grips you bends it. A painting can freeze it. Because art speaks in duration, it doesn't measure, it reveals. And in those revelations, we rediscover fragments of ourselves we forgot were still alive. So if you feel like time is slipping through your hands, maybe it's not because you're getting older. Maybe it's because you've stopped experiencing time deeply. Reclaiming duration isn't about slowing down the world. It's about waking up your inner senses. It's about living into moments, not just through them. And perhaps remembering that the most important minutes of your life will never be scheduled. They'll arrive unannounced and vanish if you're not paying attention. There's a strange phenomenon that creeps in quietly. You don't feel it at 12, not even at 18. But somewhere around your mid-20s, maybe your 30s, it begins. Time starts to move faster. Weeks blend into months. Years begin to vanish without notice. You start saying things like, "I can't believe it's already May," in January. Or, "That feels like it was just yesterday," about something that happened 5 years ago. But why? Henri Bergson believed it wasn't time that changed, it was you. When we're young, almost everything we encounter is new. New faces, new places, new emotions. And novelty demands attention. That attention deepens experience. And deep experiences take up more mental space in memory. So a single summer as a child felt endless because it was rich with firsts. The first time you rode a bike. The first time you broke a rule. The first time you fell in love, even if just for an afternoon. These memories weren't just stored, they were engraved. But adulthood trades novelty for repetition. The more predictable your days become, the fewer memory anchors your brain creates. And the fewer anchors you have, the more time compresses in retrospect. It's not just poetic, it's scientific. Neuroscience shows that time perception is directly linked to how many unique memories you form. When experiences blur together, your brain doesn't store them as distinct episodes. And so, when you look back, it feels like nothing happened. A single day filled with emotion can feel longer than a whole month of routine. That's the paradox. You can be busier than ever, and yet feel that nothing really happened. This explains why childhood summers felt eternal, while adult years feel disposable. But it goes deeper. As we grow older, we also carry more mental noise. Responsibilities, pressure, social comparison. Our minds are constantly occupied, leaving less room for full presence. And presence, as we've seen, is the gatekeeper of time. Bergson warned that the more we live by the mechanical rhythm of external life, the more we lose connection with inner time. It's not that time is passing faster. It's that we're no longer inside it. We're watching it from the outside, distracted, overloaded, numb. There's also a psychological effect called proportional theory. For a 5-year-old, 1 year is 20% of their life. For a 50-year-old, it's only 2%. That change in ratio affects how long time feels, because each new year seems smaller compared to the whole. So what does all this mean? It means that time's acceleration isn't just a side effect of aging. It's a symptom, a signal that we've stepped out of rhythm with the life we're living. And unless we change how we experience it, the years will keep slipping by, not faster but emptier. Because the tragedy isn't that time flies. It's that we don't notice until it's gone. Paris, 1922. Albert Einstein steps onto a stage to deliver a lecture on his theory of relativity. Among the audience sits an elegant, sharp-eyed man in his 60s, Henri Bergson. Philosopher, mathematician, Nobel Prize winner. And on that day, the man who would dare to challenge the most famous physicist of the modern era. What began as a formal academic talk turned into one of the most profound intellectual collisions of the 20th century. Einstein had revolutionized physics by proposing that time was not fixed. It was relative, tied to speed, gravity, and the position of the observer. According to him, time was a fourth dimension, mathematically measurable and inseparable from space. It was elegant, precise, predictable. But Bergson stood up and said, "That's not time, that's geometry." He didn't question Einstein's formulas. He questioned what those formulas left out. Because what happens to the experience of waiting, of dreaming, of grieving, of falling in love? You can't plot those on a graph. You can't measure them with a stopwatch. And yet, aren't they the most real expressions of time we live? Bergson wasn't denying physics, he was defending consciousness. He believed Einstein's view, while brilliant, stripped time of its soul. That it reduced the river of life into a sterile coordinate. Einstein responded sharply. "There is no such thing as philosophical time," he said. "Only scientific time. Precise, quantifiable, objective." But Bergson fired back. "You have eliminated the human element. Time is not just what happens to matter, it's what happens to us." To Bergson, Einstein's model explained how time worked in the universe, but not what it meant to a human being living through loss, joy, longing, or memory. He believed that science was wielding the wrong tool for the wrong problem. You can dissect a clock, but not a heartbeat. The debate ended without a winner. The scientific community, eager for precision, largely sided with Einstein. And slowly, Bergson's ideas faded from public discourse, labeled poetic, even outdated. But here's the irony. While Einstein's time built GPS systems, spacecrafts, and a deeper understanding of the universe, it told us nothing about why a year can feel like a moment, why heartbreak can freeze a week, Why the older we get, the faster time slips away. Because no matter how perfect the equations are, they can't explain your life. That was Bergson's message. That the truth of time isn't found in math, but in meaning. In the layered texture of memory. In the weight of a moment fully lived. And in today's world, where people chase productivity and ignore presence, perhaps it's Bergson, not Einstein, who has more to teach us. He reminded us that real time is not out there. It's in here. And if we don't reclaim it, we risk becoming nothing more than shadows moving to the beat of someone else's clock. You can't slow down time, but you can change how it feels. And that changes everything. The modern world runs on acceleration. Fast food, fast content, fast answers. We're rewarded for being efficient, productive, always ahead. But in chasing more time, we often forget how to actually live it. Henri Bergson believed the solution wasn't in managing time better, but in relating to it differently. He didn't offer a productivity hack. He offered a new way of seeing. And that vision starts by stepping away from the mechanical, external version of time and turning inward. So how do we reclaim real time? First, presence. Not in the self-help cliché sense, but in the radical act of actually feeling what you're doing while you're doing it. When you eat, taste. When you walk, notice. When you speak, listen. These aren't luxuries. They're doorways back into lived experience, into the flowing time that Bergson defended. Second, novelty. Seek the unfamiliar. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Even walking a different route home or talking to a stranger can awaken memory. The brain lights up when it doesn't know what comes next. And in that uncertainty, time slows. Third, emotion. Bergson knew that emotion saturates time. That's why we remember heartbreaks and weddings, but forget last Thursday. Don't numb your feelings. Feel them fully. They're how time leaves a mark. Fourth, stillness. In a world that never stops moving, stillness is rebellion. Even 5 minutes of silence, without screens, noise, or plans, can stretch time wide open. Because in stillness, you begin to hear your own consciousness again, and that's where duration lives. Finally, creation. Whether through art, writing, dance, music, or even conversation, creating something is a way of freezing time in motion. It's how we externalize our inner flow. It's how we leave traces of our lived time behind, not just for others, but for ourselves. The truth is, most people aren't really short on time. They're short on depth. They scroll, reply, check, update, but rarely inhabit their own existence. Their time is accounted for, but not felt. Reclaiming time isn't about doing less. It's about living more deeply inside whatever you do. It's not about avoiding responsibilities, it's about being awake within them. Bergson's philosophy wasn't nostalgic. It wasn't about rejecting science or structure. It was about remembering that we are not machines. That the ticking clock is a tool, not a truth. That the most meaningful time is not measured in hours, but in how alive you were while it passed. So start small. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Watch how the light changes on your wall in the afternoon. Pause before answering. Listen without rushing to speak. Let your memory open and let moments sink in. Because if you don't choose to live time consciously, you'll look back and realize most of your life passed unnoticed. And that is the real tragedy. What we've explored together isn't just a theory. It's a mirror. A mirror held up to your memory, your habits, your silence. To that subtle ache that whispers, "Where did all the time go?" But maybe time didn't go anywhere. Maybe it's been waiting for you. Inside the pages you never read slowly enough. Inside the conversations you rushed through. Inside the walks you took with your mind elsewhere. Bergson's voice, echoing from a century ago, reminds us, you're not just living in time. You are time. Every emotion you feel, every memory you carry, every dream you haven't dared to speak. They are all the threads of your lived time, flowing forward in a rhythm only you can hear. And if you're still here, still listening, I see you. Not because you reached the end, but because something in you is still curious, still present, still alive. You're invited, not to escape the ticking clock, but to notice the spaces between the ticks. If this journey made you pause, even briefly, consider leaving a trace. A like, a comment, a quiet subscription. Not out of habit, but out of resonance. Because that's how conversations continue, across time and across souls. And remember, the fastest way to lose your life is to measure it but never feel it.